This lesson goes over histograms and bar graphs. They look very similar. So for example, this right here is a histogram. This is a bar graph. Generally they both have vertical bars in them. The biggest difference is that histograms, there's no gaps between the bars. They're all stacked next to each other. While in bar graphs, there's gaps. And that there's categories, right? In a bar graph, every bar has a name or number, a category, while for histogram, it's a range of numbers. Right, for example, this is 100 to 150. This bar is 150 to 200. This bar is 200 to 250. So if it's a range of numbers, then it's a histogram. If it's categories, it's usually a bar graph. Another thing to point out for histograms, the intervals are always consistent. So if you do start off with something that's inconsistent, generally there should be like a broken axis symbol here. And then there are two ways to do histograms for these ranges. One way, the easier way, is to just tell you the exact range, right? So if your numbers are between 0 through 9, then your bar would go here. Let's say you have three numbers between 0 through 9, like 1, 3, and 5. Then your bar would look like that because there's 3. The frequency is how many times a number appears, right? So if these numbers appear 3 times, then your bar would be here. Another way to express 0 through 9 is like this. So if, for example, I have a bar that's like that, here it says 0 through 10, but really it's 0. In a bar that's written like this, for a histogram, you include the first number in the range, but not the second. So for example, if you have the number 10, it would not count towards this bar, right? Because you don't include 10 here. You would include 10 here. So if you had the number 10, it would go in between the 10 to 20 bar. Or if you had the number 20, it would go between the 20 and 30 bar. Right? It's more obvious if it's written this way. So, right, if you have 20, then obviously it's between 20 and 29. If you have 10, it's between 10 and 19. But if it's written like this, you always include the first but not the second number in every bar. Okay? So 10 would go here and not there. So it would go here. And then if you have 20, it would go here because this bar right here includes 20 but not 30. That's what's written here. You can see that here as well, right? Like if I have 250, it would not go into this bar because this bar includes 200 but not 250. So if you have 250, it would go into this bar because this bar includes 250 but not 300. All right, let's do some practice problems. So here we have a histogram. They say 3 coins were tossed at the same time. So you're flipping 3 coins. Sometimes you get just one head. Sometimes this is 0 to 1, right? So actually this includes 0 but not 1. So this is 0 heads. All 3 coins were tails. Here we have 1 heads and 2 tails. Here we have 2 heads and 1 tail. And here we have all 3 heads or no tails. Yeah, that's the number of heads. Again, frequency is how many times that number shows up. So number 1, how many times did 3 coins have at least 2 heads? So at least 2 heads would be here and here, right? This bar right here, we have 8 heads. So we got 8 times we got 2 heads. We got 2 heads 8 times, and we got 3 heads 2 times. So I'm gonna write that in. We got 2 heads 8 times. We got 3 heads twice. So 8 plus 2. We got at least 2 heads, a total of 10 times. And number 2, how many times did all 3 coins land tails? If they all landed tails, that means there were no heads, which would be here. right? If there were no heads, right, 0 heads, that means they're all tails, and that is 3. So 3 times. How many times were the 3 coins tossed to gather this data? Well, then we just have to add the last bar. How many times did we get 1 heads? We got 1 heads exactly 7 times. So it would be 3 plus 7 plus 8 plus 2. That's 10 plus 10, which is equal to. So we tossed these 3 coins a total of 20 times, and this histogram showed the result. All right, next one. Students were asked, well, this next one I can see that it's not a histogram, it's a bar graph, because number 1, there's gaps between the bars, and number 2, we have categories instead of a number range. So this should be even easier. Number 4, what was the most popular winter activity? Well, I'm just looking at first the one with the highest frequency. Then obviously it's computer because it has the highest frequency. And then number 5, reading is how many times more popular than ice skating? Reading has a frequency of 8. Ice skating has a frequency of 4. So how many times more popular? So 8 divided by 4. 2 times more popular. All right, next, number 6. How many students scored at least 15 points on a quiz? So I'm looking at my chart. I can see I have number ranges, so this must be a histogram. Again, there's no gaps between the bars. So another way to tell this is a histogram. They're asking for people that scored at least 15 points on the quiz. So 15 points is here. At least means greater than or equal to, so I want all of these numbers. So basically both of these bars. This first bar from 15 to 20, there were 6 people here. And then from 20 to 25, there were 8 people there. So 6 plus 8, there were 14 students who scored at least 15 points on the histogram. Number 7. Which pet is the most popular? Again, I'm looking to see whether it's a histogram or bar graph. I see gaps, and I don't see any number ranges here. I see categories instead, so it's a bar graph. The pet that's most popular has the highest frequency, which is, of course, a man's best friend, a dog. Number 8. Does this histogram support the claim 6 people have a commute time of 40 minutes to work every day? Well, if you have, first off, it's a histogram, right? And then 40 minutes, if you commute 40 minutes to work, you do not go in this bar, right? Because this bar includes 20 but not 40. It would go here. This bar would include 40 but not 60. So the 6 people would have to fit into this bar. This bar, however, only has a frequency of 5. So that means there's only 5 people that have between 40 and 60 minutes of commute, which means it's impossible. No. You can't have 6 people with a 40-minute commute because the histogram only shows a maximum of 5. That's between 40 and 60. No. Only 5 people commute between 40 and 60, and really it's 40 and 59.55 or 5999. And is that it? I think that's it. All right, that's it.